What is going on, everybody? Welcome into NASCAR by the Numbers. Today is a very special day, not only because we have the debut of the Daytona Road Course for the Truck Series and the Cup Series. We have a special guest with us, Ben the NASCAR guy, a guy named Ben who covers NASCAR and talks about NASCAR. So, Ben, pleasure to have you. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you started watching racing.
So I'm Ben. The NASCAR guy is my last name. Grew up in Massachusetts, been a racing fan my entire life. As far back as my actual memories go, I was a race fan. Like my earliest memories, 2005 Daytona 500. I can see that in the living room. 2007 Daytona 500, just great memories. Just been a fan my entire life. I don't know what hooked me or what was the thing that got me into racing, but it just always stuck, and it's been a humongous part of my life ever since.
It's amazing how that works, because the first year I remember moments is 2002, and then I remember 2003 kind of really watching the whole thing. But I'm fairly certain there was races on the TV before, because my dad says he watched racing for years. But 2002, I have flashes of McMurray winning in the 40 car, and then Stewart winning the championship, and then there's certain moments like that I remember. But it's weird how all that randomly happens. And then people used to ask me, "Why do you like NASCAR?" I say, I honestly have no clue what to tell you. It's part of what I do. It's been what I've done for years. So Today we were obviously going here because there's a lot of special stuff going on. Daytona Road Course. Originally, this would have been the spot of, I believe, in theory, what Watkins Glen would have been, a road course before the playoffs. Obviously, with COVID and all that kind of stuff, New York said, "No, we're good. You're not going to be coming here this year." So first of all, I want to say before we even get to previewing the race, and I think this is a great idea by NASCAR. I was really, NASCAR gets a lot of flack for making certain decisions, but this was a good decision in my opinion. It was a quick decision, and I think this is brilliant for them to test out what the future schedule could look like starting next year, the opportunities that Daytona presents from just, it's weird because we always talk about an internationally known road course. Well, Daytona is that. It's weird to think that, but it is. I mean, the sports car, the 24 Hours of Daytona kicks off racing every year for pretty much any sort of racing fan. I know NASCAR fans, IndyCar fans, Formula One fans all watch the 24 Hours of Daytona, at least parts and pieces of it, because it's the first racing of the year, really. So big deal for that. Props to NASCAR. So yesterday we had the Xfinity Series race. We were chit-chatting a little bit before we went live about what we expect. So we'll start with Ben. What were your thoughts on the Xfinity Series race, and what do you think we're going to see today?
It's probably going to be a lot similar. It seems to get single file relatively quickly, so I'm going to be looking for that. And I don't think these drivers want to push really hard immediately. They definitely want to get a reference of where they got to break and stuff. And if you saw on Twitter, Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch kind of playing with each other about where they're going to break, and he's not giving any secrets. So it'll be a fun race to watch and see what happens turn one. I feel like it's going to look a lot like the first Darlington race did, with them like half throttle coming down the front straight and into the first turn.
Yeah, single file. It's weird because it's such a big. This is the biggest track we currently have on the schedule. 3.5 miles, I believe it is. So I do think we're going to see it single file a lot, kind of similar to the Xfinity race. The thing is, it's going to be a little different from the Charlotte Roval, because the Roval was an elimination race, so the intensity was built up way more. In my opinion, I think it's going to depend on who's up front. Like, if you have someone like a Michael McDowell or maybe like a Jonathan Nemechek, who feel like this is one of their last chances to make the playoffs, then I think you're going to see a lot more chaos than chaos. But if you have someone like Harvick, Hamlin, or Truex, or Chase, I think they're going to be a little more tame, a little more calm up front. You might have a little bit of spins here and there in the back. Obviously, drivers they haven't even taken a lap in this race yet. So, you might see a couple like bus stops, just same mistakes we made in the Xfinity Series. But, yeah, I think it's going to be very similar, very strung out. I think it's going to be a little bit more strung out than usual, especially with that high downforce that they got. They got the high downforce spoiler. So, it might be a little bit more strung out, a little bit harder to pass. But I think we're going to have a decent little show today.
I think we are too. On a good point. this doesn't the pressure we're going to have in 2 weeks when we go back to Daytona Oval is going to be nuts. But there's going to be that opportunity for today too. If you get a guy like you said, Michael McDowell, or a guy that I think could have a very good run today, Matt DiBenedetto, if they're up front and there's a late restart or there's a situation late in the race where they can go on and win a race, in both of those standpoint would be their first career win. Also would put them in the playoffs and really late in the regular season. I mean, it could get intense. And if we have a situation where we happened yesterday, if you didn't get to watch yesterday, I was very fortunate to even get to watch yesterday and somehow watch the entire race. They had a caution with like 5 or 6 to go, and then they had multiple cautions within that time because turn 1 just became calamity. And, and I hope it becomes calamity. It stinks that you ask for that, but like we don't have very many moments where the Cup Series guys don't know what the hell is going on anymore. And so that's one thing I miss about road courses is it used to be no matter how many times you had been to Sonoma, there was a good chance you were going to make a mistake. There was only a handful of guys that could really go throughout the entire weekend and not make a mistake. These guys are so good at it now. I really hope it challenges these guys, but I think it's going to be that same. It'll probably be, the first stage, you may have 1 or 2 guys going off a course, figuring out the track. Stage 2 will probably run really smooth. If you look at most road course races, that's how that works. Stage 2 usually goes very smooth, very strung out. And then the beginning of stage 3 is going to probably be the same. And then I would figure that the second half of stage number 3 is probably when intensity is going to pick up. We'll have some guys forcing some things, making some mistakes. And then, fingers crossed, we get a couple of late restarts, and that is when all hell can break loose, and you can see guys just that's when you see a guy like Matt DiBenedetto or Michael McDowell all of a sudden there with a shot to win, sitting in the top 5 with a couple laps to go. So, I think the biggest things to look at is turn 1. Obviously, we saw it become a big issue yesterday. There was a picture that somebody posted. I mean, it blew my mind, the picture. I think it was the final restart where they were like 7 wide going into the 1. I mean, madness.
Shout out to Mike Harmon cars.
Mike Harmon cars. I mean, Mike Harmon Racing has never contributed that much to NASCAR. Yesterday was the crowning achievement because they had my respect yesterday on that final restart. And it was going to be pretty wild regardless. Even Austin Cindric was out here blowing the corners. But it definitely added to it. So, who knows? Maybe we'll get a couple of Aspire Motorsports cars on the front row today or something like that to kick off.
Half on the front row.
Half on the front row. Missing bus stops, I think, will be something we have to address. But, the Cup guys are pretty good. I think that might happen to 1 or 2 guys, and then we move on. But the biggest thing I know we wanted to hit on before, in our preview is Cup cars have never ran in the rain. I'm fairly certain that they've tested rain tires. The Cup cars have never raced with rain tires. Lord, please. Mother Nature has whipped our tails all year long. Today we need rain. They have Cup cars on the rain tire. What do you guys think could happen? Ben, we'll start with you. If we get Cup cars on rain for the first time.
I just actually thought of this from the conversation we had earlier. Have there ever been a nighttime road course race in Cup Series history? Because that would be something dope too. Just
imagine nighttime road course in rain. I mean, we might as well just do it big.
Oh my God, it's gonna be great. And like the fan inside of me, like as you say, we want a rain delay. I'm like, oh no, I want to watch a race when it's scheduled. But it would be absolutely insane to see that thing go in the wet, in the dark. It's gonna be. We talked about drivers that have wet tire experience, and it's a minimal list. And I'm sure that they definitely in this specific car, they haven't driven that, and it's what they're used to every single week. So I don't think they know what to expect. And it was a little wet in the Xfinity Series. I started watching a little late, but did they put wet tires on after what happened?
I think the only wet tires was to start the race.
Okay.
It rained a little bit, and then I fairly certain it was clear the rest of the race.
Okay, so if they're only putting them on for a little bit, even on slicks, they were spinning out just like every other corner, it felt like.
Yep. Armani, what you expecting?
If we do get rain, you're gonna see very few drivers, I think, like really be able to like tiptoe their way around the track. One I got in mind that just came to my head is Joey Logano. I believe he won a Watkins Glen race in Xfinity back in 2016, I believe. And that race was in the rain, I'm pretty sure, throughout most of the event. So you're going to see drivers, who dabble into like these. I think you're really going to see drivers who excel at Watkins Glen. Like I said, like Logano, Kyle Busch, they probably have a little bit more of that experience. Not in the Cup car, obviously, but in any sort of, Actually, was it raining in the Rolex 24 this year? Because if it was, then I think that could be a huge advantage to Kyle Busch.
Well, I think they have pretty much weather at some point every year, and I think Kyle just running that race, even if it was dry, still helps him, just because he's so familiar with the track. Well, it is different. But
also, for the night and the weather, I'm a minister, so I use my minister powers to pray to the Lord to get us this weather.
Well, you're in Florida. What's it look like?
It's beating down 87 degrees.
It doesn't matter what it looks like. It's 10 a.m. There's plenty of hours till the race starts. It's going to start raining, and who knows?
It's funny because yesterday when they were complaining about the weather happening at 3 o'clock and today's race starts at the same time, everybody's going to be like, thank God this starts at 3 o'clock so we can get rain.
Yeah, it's such a strange narrative that this weekend is painting.
Oh, yeah, but it's going to be fun. So getting into it, looking at the different options, Ben, we'll start with you. We'll go ahead and make our race winning predictions. Who do you think wins the inaugural Daytona Road Course race today?
So part of me wants to fanboy, but the other part of me wants to think a little logically. But I think I'm going to fanboy, and I'm going to pick the 48 today. He got extremely close. Look, I see Armani. He got extremely close to winning that Roval race. First time they ever went there. It's probably a lot more manageable than maybe this track is, and especially the conditions that they may be put through. But I mean, that 48 in an inaugural road course race, and that late in his career, I'm liking his odds. I'm just going to take it. And honestly, every time you ask me that, I'm probably going to pick his name by accident.
To note this before Armani gives, because Armani's a Jimmy Johnson fan. So to note this, I was with my buddy Gray, who I worked the dirt track with yesterday, and he calls the last chicane the Jimmy Johnson bus stop. He goes, they just threw that in there so the 48 has a shot to take somebody out and win the race.
Oh my God.
Which I was at that race. I was at the Roval when that happened, and that was one of the best moments I've ever seen live.
Oh, I can imagine, man. Even as a Jimmy fan, I'd agree with you with that.
Oh, it was nuts. Armani, who you picking?
All right, so going back to the first race of the Charlotte Roval, I'm going to go with the other guy got the short end of the stick. I'm going to go with the 19 Mark Truex Jr. He's going to get Roval redemption. I believe ever since 2018, his average finish at the road courses is a 3.4 or 3.8. Obviously, he got 2 back-to-back Sonoma wins, back-to-back runner-ups. Arguably should have won the first Roval race, and he finished, I believe, 7th last year at the Roval. So, I mean, with those kind of stats, I mean, I think the 19 car goes to victory lane.
So I'll go ahead and go into my pick, knowing I'm probably wrong. But I'm going to just go with a guy. I don't know why. When I first thought about it, it stuck out in my mind. I've actually already said his name a couple of times. I'm going to roll the dice and say somehow Matt DiBenedetto finally goes to victory lane in the Cup Series today. There's one guy I tweeted this week. There's one guy I want to see win a Cup race more than anybody else, and that is Matt DiBenedetto. You never know what could happen to him next year. That he's already doesn't know what he'll probably be doing for next year. That's not something I've heard, but that's just Austin Cindric's got to go somewhere. But what a way to maybe spice up that narrative and – maybe Matt DiBenedetto starts trying to solidify something, maybe even with the 21 car this year by winning. So we'll see. That's a little of my own conspiracy that Matt could be gone already, but hopefully not. But, a great opportunity for a guy like him to go out and win a race, fairly decent road course racer. Remember, he's the guy they went and got to test the Indianapolis road course. So, hey, maybe that's something. But I'm trying to think. So, this is the Cup Series first. It's got to be their first road course race of the year, isn't it?
Yep.
They didn't go to Sonoma. They couldn't go to the Glen. Okay, I didn't even think, wow, that's late in the year. So maybe that's something else that plays into it. I mean, he's really been the only guy that's made any laps on a road course this year in those guys, because none of those guys could run the Indianapolis road course. I mean,
first time they turned right.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, maybe he'll be good at turning right today. I don't know. But I think really quick, and what an opportunity for him to really – that team, I think, is going to make the playoffs. They're doing it on point fairly well, but what an opportunity for them to put themselves in. So, obviously, going to the road course today has opened up a lot of conversation about what can we expect for the future. So, kind of our next subject is the future of road course racing at the Cup level. It's always been a debate. I mean, for the longest, we only had 2 road course races, Sonoma, which I remember back when it was called Infineon, and in Watkins Glen. Then the Roval kind of spiced it up a couple of years ago. I went to the inaugural one. Should have went to the one last year, but didn't. Would have finally got to see my driver win, but of course decided to stay home and regretted it. So now we have a 3 mix, and then now this year, obviously, we're back down to 2 due to circumstances. But what do you guys think? Ben, we'll start with you. What do you think is the ideal number of road courses on the Cup schedule, and where would you like to see these guys go?
Ideal number, it can't be. So there's got to be that perfect medium, right? And it's hard to find that spot. I think 2 is way too small. There's 36 races in a season, and to think that only 2 of them we turn right is kind of ridiculous. Even 3 seems a little low. I would put it maybe around 5 or so. I feel like that's a comfortable number. And where would I like to see them go? I don't know if I like the Roval trend. I was going to ask you guys how you felt about it too. Honestly, if they start going to oval tracks that have existing road courses, if they switch it up, I'm cool with that. Every other year, maybe go to Indy, maybe go to Daytona, something like that. So they kind of make the venues different and give other fans opportunities to go to races. I had a couple courses down that I wanted to talk about. One that I said the track that is probably the most Cup Series ready when it comes to delivering and having consistent great finishes, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. I think that track it feels like it drives like an oval, but it's a road course if you play in NASCAR Heat 4 all the time. The thing is just a mint racetrack, and especially going to Canada, it's not abroad, but it's a foreign country. Anything outside of the States, I think, is huge in a market that NASCAR needs to hit, and that is definitely one of the courses that they should head to, for sure. Road America is definitely another one.
I've heard a lot of people talking about Canadian Tire. We got our buddy Matt in here. He's from Canada, and he's all the time talking about Canadian Tire. And, me and Armani, ironically, about a month ago, we did a show about like racetracks we want on the schedule, and we both agreed of a track in Canada, but it was Sergio Villeneuve.
Yeah, I watched that. It was I had that in my little notes too. After I watched that, that track was mint.
I was watching highlights of that race because I woke up. I didn't get in until 3 a.m. from the dirt. Like I woke up at 9, and I was like, I ate my breakfast. Let me get in some sort of racing mindset. So I looked up clips from Montreal, and I'm like, why are we not running there? It's so narrow, and it causes for contact. You're going to have to eat and bang around that place. I would love for us to go there. But Armani, my guy, how many road courses should we have on the Cup schedule?
I want to say anywhere between 4 and 6, like Ben said. 2 is way too little. 3 is way too little also. I feel like 6 is like maybe pushing it. I don't think no more than 6, but I think somewhere around 4 to 6 would be ideal. Tracks I'd like to see on the schedule. It's weird because I kind of like the Roval trend because you don't really see a lot of international or national series really race on Roval. I mean, think about it. Formula One is all street courses and, naturally built road courses. Same thing with IndyCar. But NASCAR, it's like, they can make Rovals in a way kind of like their own identity. Like, oh, hey, they're the one that race on ovals all the time. They could be to where like, oh, hey, we race on Rovals too. I don't think every race should be a Roval, but I think maybe having 2 or maybe have like 3 natural road courses and 3 Rovals. I think that, that can maybe play the NASCAR strength, make it kind of like distinct, a little more distinct than what it already is. So like, obviously, I'd like to see the Indianapolis road course Road Bowl stay on the schedule or come to the schedule. Another track is Circuit of the Americas. That's like kind of obvious. Another one, they own the track. I don't know why the hell they haven't used it. Put Road Atlanta on the schedule.
Well, I'm glad that you hit on that because to both points. So Ben made a good point. Like as a racing purist, I'm like, put real road courses on the schedule. Go to places that when you tell a Formula One fan that NASCAR is going here, they know what that place is. Or when you tell an IndyCar fan, they know where that place is. But something I did think about is the Roval opportunity is something that NASCAR can kind of make its own because nobody else does that. The way I looked at it, I started thinking about this earlier this year. Right now, with the types of road courses we've got, it's kind of actually a perfect mix. Now, I had a hot take that if we could get a better road course, I'd be willing to take Sonoma off the schedule. Sonoma really has not been racy lately. It's just become a one-lane racetrack, and that's it. But you have Sonoma, which is a very finesse racetrack. You have Watkins Glen, which is a very speed road course. And then you have – think about this. It's legitimately stadium road course racing. We're going to put a road course. You can see I've been to the Roval. We sit way up high at Charlotte. You can see the entire racetrack. It is stadium road course racing. Nobody else does that. Right now, nobody else can do that. And so to that point, that is something NASCAR could take advantage of. But I will say this, like part of me thinks it's a slap in the face to real road courses when NASCAR just says, oh, we'll just go to Texas Motor Speedway and make a road course. Just because there's so many good venues. There's who I had on my list, Montreal, Road America, which if I had to guess, maybe it's just me. I have a feeling we're going to see Road America on the schedule. I have a feeling, and I really hope we do. I mean, the Xfinity Series is already there. Just make a weekend out of it. They sell a ton of camping spots for that weekend. I mean, it's a good spot to be. I don't know what the deal was with Mexico. I've heard, I know Mexico's probably never going to happen again. I know it was a lot of the borders and all that kind of stuff and just problems. I think there was a lot of crime down there too when they raced. But I'm a big fan of at least going somewhere outside of the U.S. In North America, whether it's Canada, Mexico, broaden the horizon. I'd perfectly be fine if maybe once a year we went overseas and did a race. I just think it's cool to broaden it. And then the last one I had was Armani Circuit of the Americas. I mean, why aren't we already there? I mean, that's a place you could literally have a NASCAR Formula One doubleheader one weekend, mix the sports. I mean, it would be perfect in my opinion. And we actually had a question in here, and we can answer this. Someone asked us if you have – so my ideal number that I threw out was I think 4, but I'd be perfectly okay with 5. I like road course racing. But they said if you have 4 of them, how do you spread them out through the season? The way I was thinking is, I've been an advocate for a while now that we should have Sonoma in the West Coast swing. Put Sonoma early in the season, 3rd or 4th race of the year. You put a road course early. You put a road course in the middle, sort of, I guess, where Sonoma typically is. And then you would put a road course where Watkins Glen's typically is, late in the regular season. And then I'm fine with one road course in the playoffs. I mean, how are you the best drivers in the world, but you win a championship and you don't have to race on all forms of what you race? So sort of where the Roval's at. But, and this is something we can discuss for a minute. I'm sure you guys have heard NASCAR fans that do not like road course racing. Like, it blows my mind. I'm thinking, especially in the modern day with the packages we have, to me, it's some of the best racing we see because road course racing is the most pure racing you can get. Yes. This is just like back in the day when you were racing on the mountainside, calling moonshine from the cops. You're turning right, you're turning left, you're going everywhere you can. I mean, how do you not love it?
Yeah, you ain't trying to run against the wall when you're running from the cops moonshining, man. There's so many intricacies, and I've gained so much respect for road racing just in the past few years. And seriously, just from playing like Formula One video games and learning about that sport specifically and what they do over there, it's just insane. And the technicalities, how you just don't miss a mark, and they're so quick with it. It's the most impressive thing. And you said the purest form of racing. I think that's so true. And you're right. When I've always felt that when I hear the greatest drivers in the world, I'm like, it's like the 25 best stock car drivers in America. Okay. Right. Like, come on. But I think that adding road courses and making the schedule more diverse and maybe even giving them a change. I mean, if from 2001 to 2017, I don't think there was maybe Dover moved a week. Maybe like there was no changes in the schedule at all. It was consistent. You knew what was coming. And the randomness, that's what's going on now and what NASCAR's kind of doing. And I feel like it almost like news drops every other day Road America was hinting towards 2021. So, I mean, they're willing to do whatever it seems how this year's gone.
And I think you brought up a good point too. And then I'll get Armani to spit up on it is, I think one thing that the NASCAR should look at is rotating tracks. Like, one idea I had is if you've watched some stuff that we've done, my hot take is they should probably take the Brickyard off the schedule. But one idea I've had is, okay, if you want to make the Brickyard special, run it every year there's an Olympics. Run it every 4 years. Run the Brickyard 400. It's special. A driver, if they run 20 years, they've got 5 chances to ever win that race.
That's cool.
And I think it'd be cool there. I think Armani even mentioned this. Maybe one year you go to Daytona. Maybe one year you go to Indy. And you can just kind of alternate that. And you don't have to book that venue every single year. Every 2-3 years you go to a place. So, Armani, what you thinking? What you got going on over there? I'm sure you got a hot take over here.
It's funny, too, because I think they mentioned a while ago that NASCAR is actually thinking about, signing these tracks to 1 to 2 race deals. So if they do that, I mean, don't be surprised if we do see, like tracks rotating for now on, because like I said, they're going to be 1 to 2 race deals for now on. So like these 5-year-long contracts. I mean, you could see maybe have like a Roval special where it's like one time's in Indianapolis. I could see this happening. It's like the crown, like I'm imagining in my head right now, the crown jewel of Rovals. You got two of the most popular tracks in America, the Daytona International Speedway and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Imagine like 1 year we go to Daytona, 1 year we go to Indianapolis. It's like, oh, because I've also mentioned it also where it's like, Roger Penske wants to make the Indianapolis Motor Speedway like the racing capital of the world. You can't really do that, if you only have like really one series at the track. It really just makes no sense like that in my opinion. So, revive the Brickyard 400. I think putting on the road course, would give it that own distinct, flavor. Obviously, like NASCAR, like I said before, they can, take Rovals and use it to their advantage. Indianapolis, even the road course, Formula One used to race on it before. I believe Trans Am used to race on it before. So not exactly a slap on the face, like, let's say you're going to, like you said, Texas Motor Speedway. It's like, hey, we're going to go on the Roval there. So I think, like having that rotation would be very, I think if you are going to rotate them, it's going to have to be between Daytona and Indianapolis. And I think, like, it would bring a distinct flavor to the schedule.
Now,
Do you think, do you think that the length of the schedule dilutes, like, the meaning of, let's say, the Brickyard? Because you're right. I mean, maybe not the meaning of the race has been diluted, but the race itself has been lackluster, it seemed, the past few years. And with a switch up or a change, it could bring more prestige and maybe more honor to winning the Brickyard. I mean, it's cool that they get to kiss the bricks, and that's probably like the most famous part about it for NASCAR. But I mean, if 36 races, what is one, whether you finish second, last, when you have 35 other opportunities to get that win?
Right. That's something I actually feel weird about this. So part of me is like, if you're going to keep the Brickyard, keep it on the oval, because I don't know, it feels, I feel like a lot of other motorsports already kind of think NASCAR's their drunk cousin anyways. Like, that's not racing. There's no, you can beat and bang and you actually can use fenders. Like, that's not racing. They're just wrecking each other all the time. And so part of me feels like, from a respect thing, that if NASCAR makes the Brickyard 400 the road course, like, you aren't good enough to run the oval in a sense. You know what I mean? So, like, I definitely think the Indy Road Course, I don't know. I'm weird for the Indy Road Course. I guess if NASCAR is going to run at the Brickyard, run the Brickyard. If you're not, then just don't run. Go to IRP where you should be anyways. Mm-hmm. And I get it. It can't really be that. I'm sure the Cup Series will put on a great show with the road course, but maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me and my NASCAR selfishness is one there. But an idea for you guys is, we've heard this rumor floated around, is what do you guys think about a potential NASCAR street race? I mean, do you guys think about that, a street course? I've always thought, I don't know if, like, street courses are typically very narrow. I don't know if you're going to have a lot of passing opportunities there, but I'm trying to think of just the aesthetics of the Cup Series on a street course. What you guys think?
They would look sick, like aesthetically look amazing, fantastic. Imagine them going down the streets of New York for an all-star race with the underglow and the light and the back of the cars. That would actually look pretty cool. But you said, there's not going to be much passing. I'm pretty strange with a flat road course. Like, I can't imagine there's a lot of elevation. I mean, it potential, but I don't think it'll produce the greatest racing. They could save it for another series and not spend the money and have just a bad show.
Yeah, street courses are usually very narrow. Obviously, like, there's restrictions on what you can use, what you can't use, obviously, with the city. So I remember back in 2019, I believe it was 2019, where Joseph Newgarden, when he drove an IndyCar on the Roval, he said that the infield portion is as close as the NASCAR is probably ever going to get to a street course. And, very narrow, very technical. I watched this one video about this one guy, talk about Formula E. And he was saying, like, he's mentioned it in rallycross racing, which is one thing I really like about road course racing, is you can really see the drivers, like, on the raggedy edge. Like, you can really see, like, the art form, like, how they do it. I remember one time where it's like, where Ricky Rudd used to, like, mash all three pedals at the same time going into Sonoma. Like, you really see the art form. You really see the drivers, very technical, very precise in movement. And I think a street course, it can lend itself to that. It just depends on where you're going to do it. Because obviously, a street course, maybe like, say, South Florida, I don't know if it really lends itself well to that, just because Florida is very flat. You're not going to have a lot of elevation, so maybe not the best passing opportunities in the world. But maybe a place like, just throwing a random state out there, maybe like Colorado, where, you have a lot of elevation changes, or even Kansas, I think it can lend itself really well. It really just depends on where exactly you're going to fit that road course in. Because, you can put it in big markets, but, like, it depends on, like, is that market going to lend itself to good racing? You know, so it really depends where.
Right. And just to set up everything and do everything they would have to do, or, you know, there'd be so much expectation for that race. And then, like we said, it's probably not going to be a bunch of passing unless you just build in passing zones. You're going to do all that effort for the fans on Twitter to go, man, that sucked. and that's it. You know what I mean? And aesthetically, it would look fun, but at the end of the day, aesthetic looking fun, you know, all these tracks aesthetically look fun. That doesn't pay the bills. Even Texas looks like a great racetrack, but it doesn't race very well. People say it.
I'm not sure the last time I've really watched an IndyCar street race, but I can't remember them being like the craziest races ever either. It was more a strategy type deal, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with a strategy race. It's always interesting, but you're never going to get that banger race that I think NASCAR strives for, and every fan, when they turn on the race, expect it to be the best race they've ever seen. So,
yeah, I'm expecting 2021 to just be 36 plate races.
Oh my God!
I expect 2021 to be 36 Kentucky races.
36 Kentucky. I'm with that. Kentucky been slaying the past couple of years. That track slaps. Cole Custer. That was probably the best finish in recent couple weeks. Definitely.
Here's the idea: all 36 races, Kentucky. Every race is 5 laps long.
You get the season done in a day.
We're not gonna ride around for 200 laps. 5 laps, green flag, go. This is what.
Oh my God.
So, our last kind of segment for today, we've had a lot of fun talking road courses. We get to talk a little bit more. Is we figured one thing we've got to do is talk about top 3 road course moments. So we've got all listed. We'll go from third to first. We will start with Ben. We'll go to Armani. Then we'll go to me. So, Ben, what is your number 3 road course moment?
Number 3 road course moment. 2012 Sonoma. Do you remember Kurt Busch's solid third place day that day?
Oh, yeah. And the 51.
Yes, in the 51 James Finch ride. I was thinking whenever we had talked, and I'm like, man, I try not to go the most mainstream picks, but I definitely want to get some sleepers in there, and this is definitely one of them. He had a great interview at the end. That entire season, that was his only top 5 of that entire year. He had one other top 10 in that 51 car, and it was earlier in the year at Fontana, I believe, and then went to the 78 at the end. But, I mean, clearly the worst year of Kurt's career, and it felt like on that day while watching it, everyone could rally, and everyone in the field, all the fans were like, all right, we want Kurt to actually succeed in this race. You know, there was not a person that didn't want him to get the win maybe, or just secure a top 5 and stay where he was. And thought that was a great day, and it was definitely a moment that needed to be mentioned because it's one that doesn't get notifications.
I would have never thought about that, but if you think about it, that was sort of the day that started turning Kurt Busch's reputation back around.
For sure.
Because after that day, like I remember, like, let's go James Finch. Let's go. I remember the bumper was falling off, the car was sliding everywhere. I mean,
that's awesome. He was wheeling it so hard, and it was so fun to watch.
Great
day.
Good point. Like, if you think about it, if that day doesn't happen, I mean, I'm assuming Kurt is going to go race somewhere anyways. But, like, I mean, that was a huge moment in, like, people realizing Kurt Busch can still drive a race car and still actually get through a post-race interview without flipping out.
Kurt Busch doesn't go to that 78 car. Who knows if they win a championship a couple years later?
Implication. That's a big-time moment.
It's a big day.
Armani, what's your number 3?
My number 3 pick, going back to our love of Montreal, I believe it was the 2007 race with Marcos Ambrose and Robbie Gordon. NASCAR dropped the ball. Marcos Ambrose dropped the ball. Robbie Gordon dropped the ball. So pretty much what happened is that Marcos Ambrose, like, coming late into the race, Marcos Ambrose and Robbie Gordon, beating and banging. They were not fans of each other that day. And I believe what happened was, I believe Marcos spun out Robbie Gordon. No, Robbie Gordon spun out Marcos Ambrose. And then, or the other way around. I don't exactly remember. But then the caution came out or something like that. And then NASCAR black flagged Robbie Gordon for not heaving his position. And so Robbie Gordon was like, yeah, and like NASCAR was telling him, like, heave his position for when the caution came out, something like that. And then Robbie Gordon was like, no, that's not going to happen. And so he's restarting second right behind Marcos Ambrose, even though in reality he was supposed to be in like 16th. And then NASCAR throws the green flag when, Robbie Gordon doesn't decide to, adhere to it. And then Robbie Gordon spins out Marcos Ambrose, and then, NASCAR black flags him. Kevin Harvick goes on to win the race, and then Robbie Gordon does burnouts with him. It was just calamity. You want calamity hour? That race was calamity hour. It's like, what the hell happened to Marcos? What the hell happened to Robbie Gordon? Where are they out of the scoring pile? What the hell happened?
I appreciate that, Armani. That was on my list. I can't give up where it is on my list, but that's why I got to plead the fifth for now. I got to plead the – trust me, we will revisit that point, okay? But first we got to get through this one. This is one I'm sure touches you guys' heart. Number 3 on my list, Jimmy Johnson wipes out Martin Truex Jr. at the Road Course 2018. I was there in person, and I was cheering for Jimmy because this is when Jimmy's woes – and just think about that. He still has not won a race. That's how big a deal that moment is.
I want to hear it.
The closest.
I remember watching – me and my dad were sitting right as they go into one and they come out of whatever that when they get back on the banking of Charlotte. So we're watching. I'm like, Jimmy has a shot here. He goes down the back stretch. He gets to the chicane. I'm like, Jimmy has a shot here. And then they go in. And so we have a direct vantage point of they're coming straight at us before they hit the last little turn out. And so here he goes. And then Jimmy loses. So I'm losing my mind. Jimmy loses. And then he hits the 19 car. And I'm losing it even more. And then Ryan Blaney just snakes his way through. Ryan Blaney getting I think that was a second career win finally.
There are a few times that like racing truly leaves me speechless, and that is 100% one of those moments.
Oh, it was just, dude, every now and then I still just go back and watch that replay. And I'm just like, Dale Jr.'s over there like, Dale, he hit him. Dale
Oh,
Jr.'s
yeah.
But that was my number 3. I feel like that was such a crazy moment.
Oh, yeah.
Blaney goes on. That moves him further in the playoffs. Remember Jimmy, because they both missed that final little whatever you call that. Jimmy had to stop. And then remember, Jimmy missed the round of 12 or whatever the next round was by like 1 point.
Yeah, and it was like Kyle Larson coming, like literally hitting every single wall.
Jeffrey Earnhardt was stalled before the stripe. And so Kyle Larson's car is destroyed. Remember, Eric Almirola, it was so much – I was there live, so I didn't even know all this was happening. At the same time, Eric Almirola passes like 6 cars on the last lap to somehow manage to make the next round. Then you have Kyle Larson, whose car is destroyed, just bounces off the wall coming across the stripe, passes Jeffrey Earnhardt, makes it in by 1 point. And I think he's the one who – that's what beat Johnson. So Johnson gets sent home. Almirola's in. Larson is in. It was nuts. And then, again, to that point, Jimmy Johnson has still not won a race. That is the closest Jimmy Johnson has been to winning a race in 3 years.
I don't want to hear it.
Listen.
Hey, until today.
Exactly. As bad as I feel for Jimmy, I remember the mid to late 2000s, okay? He got his fair share, okay?
Man, I want to go back to the mid to late 2000s.
Yeah, we need some ally wins. Come on.
Yeah, we do. They do need some. Hey, maybe the white paint scheme debuts today.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Maybe there's a shot. Maybe it turns around this season.
Oh, we're getting there. Hopefully.
At this point, they're getting desperate. Like at this point, they're legit. Like, I'm just ready for them to just go ahead and make it like Lowe's blue and white for Ally, and just let that be the final 10 races at this point. Maybe we'll get some of that old Lowe's magic back in the car.
Oh, that'd be dope.
All right, so we'll go back around. Number 2 moment, Ben. What you got?
Number 2. All right. Continuing with the maybe not moments that you'd expect to spice it up a little bit, I had David Rudiman's Watkins Glen crash in 2011. I think I rewatched like 2011 crashes to try to like fact check myself on this. That was the only time a Cup car got on its lid. There was only, I say, 1.5 Xfinity flips with, you remember Bora at Dover, got hit and went on his side. So that was the half. But I mean, that was everything about that crash was violent. And you can't tell me that every single hit didn't probably hurt the guy in the car, or not hurt him, but, knock the wind out of him, make him recover for a minute. And that race itself, just that day, Marcos Ambrose first win. It spawned the Boris said Greg Biffle beef, which is great. He said he needs a whooping. He called him a chump. It was threatened to go to his house. It was a great top tier interview in NASCAR history and just everything about that event. But I mean, just that crash specifically was just so hard, and it exposed, it seemed, a lot of imperfections in the safety there. We're hitting like literal cinder blocks or concrete barriers. So it was one of the hardest road course crashes I've ever seen. So I figured I had to give it the nod here for number 2.
I saw a replay of it, I think yesterday or the day before, and I'm just like, David Reagan took a shot, Rudiman took a shot. Like,
and when the camera comes into it, you just see him like in the middle of it. It's just aggressive.
The worst possible time to pick up that wreck.
Yeah.
It shows every single hit without a beat. And then if you really think about it though, like that wreck was kind of looked over long term. Like you don't hear people talk about that wreck. And it was like
Very true.
one of the hardest wrecks I've ever seen in my. They literally hit a flush wall. And they just bam, and I mean it was terrible.
Oh, it was like bowling with gutters, just hitting it back and forth everywhere up the
Speaking of bowling, shout out to the '92 car for getting a spare.
Oh,
yeah.
We were watching that race yesterday, and my buddy, like I said, we got to watch it in rain delay. And the '92 car hits those. He goes, "He just got a 710 split."
If I'm him, I come around the next corner and hit the other one just to get all three.
Just to go ahead and just finish it off with a spare, and we'll be good to go. That was a good moment. And hey, I'm all for road signs getting hit. We don't get to see it happen very often. I remember at the first Roval, they had the Bojangles sign get hit. That was awesome. I think it was Chris Buescher that hit it. I remember that happening. So Armani, number 2, what you got?
All right, number 2, I was gonna make it your boy getting his first win, but thinking about it now, I'm gonna have to go with probably one of the more underrated NASCAR drivers of all time. 2000 Watkins Glen, Steve Park gets his first career win, beating Mark Martin. I mean, I believe this was DEI's first ever win in the Cup Series, and this is no. It was DEI's first win in the Cup Series. I believe was Dale Jr. in 2000. So, but Steve Park getting his first win. You know, people talk about the glory days of the early 2000s. I mean, Michael Waltrip, Dale Jr., Steve Park. That was like, in some cases, like the dream team. And for Steve Park, you know, he had so many injuries in his career. You know, really is like Steve Park is one of those what ifs. Like, what if Steve Park didn't get injured? What if, you know, what if he didn't miss all these races? What if he just actually was able to live out his career? You know, he'd probably have more wins. He'd probably actually get a top 10 points finish. Maybe DEI can maybe stay a little bit more competitive also. Obviously, Teresa Arnard drove that team into the ground. But think about it. I mean, you know, this was at the time, I believe Jeff Green was in the one car, and he didn't really do much. But think about it. If that dream team would have just stayed intact, if Steve Park was able to live up to his potential, Dale Jr. still competing for titles, Michael Waltrip, you know, still being a master of play races. And it really all started in that year 2000 when he had Dale Earnhardt Jr. coming in. He had Steve Park really start to come into his own. And this is a race, you know, not really a lot of people, you know, talk about. So I'm going to go with number 2, Steve Park getting career win number 1.
I like it.
I'm not that big. Yeah, see, I went with just mainstream stuff. All right, number two, Robbie Gordon and Marcus Ambrose, Canada, like Armani mentioned earlier. I remember that. First of all, how does NASCAR let that race restart with Robbie Gordon sitting second? How do you allow that? We don't even allow that at the local dirt track. How do you allow that? And Robbie was just like, no, I'm good. And then how did Robbie Gordon not win the appeal?
No, I'm good.
Through this day, Robbie Gordon won that race. I was literally watching replays of Montreal before we got on this show, and I saw another video where Villeneuve, I think it was Jacques Villeneuve at one point, just dumped Tagliani, just took him out, never stood off the gas, just showed the replay, never stood off the gas. No penalty, no nothing.
Villeneuve probably has a few of those.
Exactly. No penalties, no nothing. How does NASCAR tell Robbie Gordon you don't get to win this race? So I think I remember there was I think the issue that Robbie had is that there was a caution behind them, and then under yellow, the yellow had just come out. Robbie got turned by Marcus. But I don't remember when Robbie took back off. So I can't remember if Robbie was still second by the time he looped the car around and got back. But I think NASCAR tried to say because he had spun out and didn't maintain speed or something like that, that he had to go back to whatever, which I can't – I'd have to rewatch it live or like a full replay to really remember.
Right.
But how do you let the race restart with Robbie? If you're full and faithful that he should not be there, whether it's the right call, wrong call, how do you restart the race with him there? Because you know what's happening. This is Robbie Gordon. You know what's happening.
Yeah. Probably the most obvious dumping that you could see.
I mean, it was perfect. And then, like Armani said, they almost had double burnouts. They did like half a second. And then Kevin Harvick realized what was going on and completely ruined the situation. Kevin Harvick just couldn't go along with it.
Yeah, busting the fun. There used to be old teammates. I don't know, maybe he had a little bit of animosity for something. He's like, he's killing my shine because he thinks he won.
Which was
upset
cool.
with him.
Which I didn't know this. So, because, Robbie Gordon was on the Dale Jr. Download a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it's a great
and then
episode.
Apparently last week, Robbie Gordon was a backup driver for the Xfinity series. If somebody had tested positive for like a certain team, Robbie Gordon was going to be in an Xfinity
For
car.
Road America, the trophy
really?
trucks were there, so that makes all the sense.
Yeah, it makes
all the
perfect sense. So
You know
first
his
of all, I am all
12-year-old
about,
kids in that series?
I think it's Robbie's son.
Yeah, that is insane.
Gordon.
Imagine being 35, getting passed by a 12-year-old at Road America.
He's good too.
Good for him, man. That's an interesting watch for a couple of years.
Yeah, but could you imagine? I'm all for anything to get Robbie Gordon back to the Cup Series. I'm all for anything to get Robbie back to Cup. Just he doesn't have to own his own team anymore. Just somebody give him the car for the weekend. I miss Robbie. His personality was hilarious.
Oh yeah.
I mean, anytime Robbie Gordon was in front of the camera, it was awesome. I remember him just looking at the camera at Canada. We won this race. I mean, we won this race, and so
the honesty is bar none. And you got to appreciate in an era where personality is coming a minimum. You miss the guys that even piss you off. I don't know if I can say that, but that made you mad a little bit.
Oh yeah, you could do that. And that's one thing. Like I was waiting for Dale Jr. to ask him, like, "Are we ever going to see you back in the Cup Series? Or why did you leave?" Like I wanted him to ask him that so bad, and he didn't. But I would imagine a lot of what we see is why Robbie Gordon got the hell out when he did.
And power to him. He's owning his own series and having a great time with it. So,
oh yeah, they're killing it, dude. He was talking about his business dealings, and that dude is killing it right now.
Mm-hmm.
So to loop off the list here, drum roll number one here, Ben. What you got? Number one road course moment.
Number one, we're going back to Sonoma, but it's Tony Stewart's final win. Epic day. Everything about it. It's all you could ask for in a send-off season last year in front of his parents. I think everyone. When Denny wheel hopped and there was a pretty decent gap going into that last corner between them, but you're like, there's no way Tony's not going to let this go without him having a say at the end of it. And got Denny. Denny wheel hopped, but cleared him out coming out of the corner and just went off into the victory. And it was a great day.
The question me and Armani have to ask: did Denny give him the race?
Say that again?
Did Denny give him the race?
So easy to say I see it. I can't sit there and wholeheartedly say yes because he probably wheel hopped, but at the same time he knew that he didn't want to get into him, so he probably wanted to give Tony the opportunity to have a shot. But I can't sit here and say that he's like, Tony, have the win. But he definitely probably he might have been a lot more lenient in that corner.
We've all been there, even if it's playing like a video game or something. Like in the new video, I've been playing NASCAR Heat 2 lately just because that's the only game I'm dominant at. And so I'm running for JD Motorsports, and I've won 11, 12 races. And Harrison Rhodes is still on the team. And I'm trying to move over so you maybe can win. On. I can maybe see that. Denny gave him the racing line, but wasn't like, I'm not going to park for you, but if you get to my inside, you get there.
I want to say that Tony did not even care if Denny was if he was going to be clear or if he wasn't going to be clear. Regardless of where Denny's car was, his mark was his mark. So
if those two had busted through pit wall, Tony Stewart was still going to hit the gas. Tony Stewart was going.
If Tony only has three tires, he's still going to go.
Yeah. He's had plenty of moments on the tires at that turn 11 too. So it's a pretty eventful corner for that guy.
Oh yeah. Armani, go ahead. What crazy take you got here? What is your number one road course racing moment?
All right, number one road course racing moment is about as wild as my predictions. I believe it's 2012 Watkins Glen. Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, Marcos Ambrose. Sprinkle a little bit of Dale Jr. in there, just a little bit. I remember seeing that NASCAR Guard 88 car, my boy Dale Jr. But yeah, you got the three of them. Kyle Busch with the oil. Keselowski spins him through the S's. Keselowski has a problem. Ambrose is trying to catch him. They go through the grass at the bus stop. Ambrose gives him a punt coming out of the chicane. Ambrose just passes him it was like, that was just like a race. That was like, it's weird because it's like with what happened at the Roval, you're screaming and everything. You're screaming. You want Jimmy to win. You want Truex to hold him off. You're just like, what the hell happened when Blaney, just snakes through? But it's weird because, in that last lap, you kind of just have to stay silent because it's like you just need to let your eyes just take in and just watch what's gonna happen. Mm-hmm. And that is when you think of NASCAR road course racing, I believe that is the pinnacle of NASCAR road course racing. You got beating and banging. You got the road course aces, coming out and showing off the Cup guys. So, I mean, there's really nothing else to say about the race. It's just 2012 Watkins Glen.
You stole my moment. Exactly. And unless we get something,
A new pick.
unless we get something just crazy, that will probably forever be my all-time favorite road course racing moment. Ambrose, Keselowski, Busch. I mean, still to this day, I mean, I don't know if something was wrong with Kyle because the other two were running on the same oil that Kyle was running on, and they were running way faster. In the 18, I mean, because remember, before this happened, the 18 car had like a 2 or 3 second lead. I mean, you weren't going to touch
ran down.
And then Dale Jarrett's like, something's wrong with the 18 car. They kept catching them. And then they go into one. And remember, people think like this is part of it. Like Kyle completely wrecked himself. Brad's just going through the corner. Kyle comes over, puts himself in the wall. Everybody swears that Brad dumped him, but he really didn't. And then they're coming. That moment is like we've all played. I go back to a video game. We've all had those moments, and we're just having fun on our road course. And that's what you dream of, beating and banging. So I remember when they went through the carousel, Brad all of a sudden took off, and then Marcus just gassed it. All over. Remember, he almost turned Brad off the carousel. Yeah. And then they're just going back and forth. And then Marcos goes wide, and Brad comes in, and then the last corner, Marcos just slams it. I mean, it was wild. And all of it should have never happened. That's what's crazy is there was all over the entire racetrack. NASCAR, that's one of those moments where NASCAR knew what they were doing. They were just like, yeah, we'll just let them go. They'll have fun.
Hey, I mean, it produced one of the arguably top 10 greatest finishes that we've seen. So, I mean, maybe it was a happy mistake. I'll give it to. I'll let them have that one.
Very happy mistake. Anytime NASCAR flips it and it benefits us, that's great. I mean, that was an all-time racing moment. I will never forget that moment. I wish we could have moments like that every single year where you're just – that is what stock car racing is, bumping and banging. You can't do that in any other style of car that there is that you race around the planet. So that is my dream thing. So one thing I did mention to y'all, and then we'll roll out of here, is did you guys have any kind of honorables? Mine was Jeremy Clements wins in 2017 at Road America. Jeremy's actually I've never been to his shop, but his shop's like 15 minutes from my house at Spartanburg, South Carolina. I remember that this was when Matt Tifft was still at Gibbs, and they go in that final corner coming to the white, and they both wreck each other. I'm thinking, I guess Jeremy just blew it. And I'm just yelling. I forgot who third was. Maybe it was Michael. No, it was Michael Annett. Of course, it was Michael Annett. That's why he wasn't there. Michael Annett was like 7 seconds behind him. Jeremy whips that sucker back out, goes and just paces himself and comes on and wins right now his one and only ever Xfinity Series race.
Yeah. Honorable mentions. I picked some unmainstream, so literally everything you guys said from the Canada race, especially that Watkins Glen. Actually, funny story about that. With like 8:10 to go, my dad decided that the race wasn't entertaining him enough, so he wants to go play the drums. Well, in 8 laps, he missed one of the greatest finishes ever, so karma served him right on that day. But what other road cup? Robbie Gordon. This one isn't as fresh, but he was trying to. Maybe he was a leader, or he was trying to hold off a car trying to lap him. Yeah, Harvick and Stewart passed him. Just speaking of Robbie Gordon, funny moment right there. You said Jimmy's first win earlier, Armani. That was an epic one. That almost made the list too.
Then another. Hey, I forgot. I do have a Jimmy. How y'all have Jimmy Johnson at the Roval? I forgot. I do have.
Oh yeah.
You remember Jeff Gordon 2007? Jeff Gordon 2007.
Oh, his crash
goes into turn one and takes the white flag, goes into turn one, just forgets the turn one's there and just loops it. Tony Stewart drives right past him and goes on and wins the race.
What track was that at?
Watkins Glen 2007. Car tomorrow. Gordon and dominated the whole race. Takes the white flag, just misses turn one.
That is not fresh to my memory. That is something I got to watch. Wow.
Yep. Jeff Gordon goes into turn one, just forgets that turn one's there, and just Tony Stewart just sweeps on by him and goes on and wins. I think Gordon still finished second.
Wow. That's the good thing about a road course. They were spinning out. Riley Harp spun like 2 times yesterday. Was still in the top 15.
Dude, yesterday. So again, and then like I said, we're all out of here. So I've been playing again NASCAR Heat, and so NASCAR Heat. If you touch the grass, you're dead. Like you're done. You just call it a day. It was so funny to see that happen yesterday. Like those guys would touch the grass. Noah Gragson just touches the grass. He's gone. He goes just spinning into the corner.
And Obama almost flipped. It was
that's part of why I want it to rain too. Is not necessarily for the rain on the track, even though that would be epic, is like today, if you touch the grass and it's dry, you're going to be able to get away with it. Yesterday, you could not touch the grass. If you touched the grass, you were going to get out of shape. And that's part of the reason I'm hoping for a little bit of rain later today.
Yes, sir.
So with that being said, we appreciate everybody tuning in. Make sure you go and follow Ben at Ben the NASCAR Guy on Twitter. He's been an awesome guest. We're good conversation. We'll definitely have to bring him back on at this point. It's
Awesome.
fun. I guess we'll bring Armani back next week. We'll see about that. So, but yeah, with that being said,
that's going to be my replacement.
No, come on now, Armani. Come on now. You got better hats than me. I forgot my Jimmy hat. I was gonna bring it and wear it. Allied throwback would have been great.
Yeah, we've got to have wild takes too. So we've got to have it.
Yeah.
So with that being said, make sure again. Ben, will you get to watch the Cup race today?
Absolutely.
So I know Armani doesn't have to actually work today, so he gets to watch it. I'm gonna be trying to watch the truck and Cup race. Remember, trucks is at 12, Cup is at 3. So follow us all along on Twitter. I'm sure we'll be talking about the race, live tweeting about the race and everything. With that being said, we are going to go roll out of here. Y'all have a good race day, and we will see you next time.
Peace.